Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Monday, September 2nd. Happy Labor Day, folks, to all you people. And hopefully, some of you got today off since it is Labor Day. Claude's got off today. But what we're going to do is, since my son and my other son have today off, we're going to be moving tree stands, getting ready for deer season. The boys turned out good yesterday. I ended up not going. I was working on videos and whatever. But the big thing with me was who they who I let have permission to do things on my property. And the big thing for me is if somebody asks permission to hunt per se for ducks, geese. I'm more inclined to say yes if they bring young kids with them and get them involved into the sport. Teach them when they're young, gun safety, camaraderie, you know, and that's the way I was taught. That's the way I taught my kids. It's better to be high on the outdoors, hunting, fishing, trapping, all that, than to get stuck on your iPhone and doing drugs and it's a whole different thing. If you want to really get a good sense of what it is to be quiet, is go sit in the deer woods in the fall where you're not saying anything, but all you hear are the leaves falling. You hear the oaks, nuts falling out of the trees. You think you got a big rack buck coming and it ends up being a chipmunk in the leaves. Ruffled grouse is going by, turkeys going by. It's not about the hunting. It's about getting back in tune with nature. And I think we as humans need to be in tune with nature. That's another lost art that I think a lot of people are forgetting. Farmers have always been in tune with nature because they have the soil in their hands. They're planting, right? So what are we going to talk about this morning? Well, I didn't really have any topics per se. And with it being a holiday, usually I was going to take today off from doing a video. But hang tight. So I thought today we talked about noise. Yeah, noise. Where do you go for your happy place? To where you can things quiet down enough so you can think about things. There's always something going on. We talked about instant gratification yesterday. You got your Snapchat, your likes, your Facebook, your texts. Everything. There's so much noise out there. And there's so much noise out there that you really start to lose yourself, right? And you start forgetting days and weeks. Time is going by, right? But you have to get someplace where there's no noise. Some people like meditation. It's different strokes for different folks. I like nature. I always have. If I have a lot on my plate and I'm trying to sort it out, the place I go is to Mother Nature. Take a ride out on the side by side, shut it off, and just sit for a while and think about things. Because the only noise I have are of the animals, of nature. And it's a great time in the fall for me because the geese are migrating. So you're listening to the big old honkers going over top when you're sitting in a deer stand. The chipmunks are squirreling. Chipmunks and squirrels are packing their little spots right full of goodies. Where chipmunks hibernate during the winter, but the grays and the reds, they stay out. But they build nests out of leaves, and they have different locations that they have their nuts. And I've sat there and watched while on deer stands. A couple gray squirrels. One would go bury it, and the other one would dig it back up and grab it and take off with it. And I'm just like, tricky little squirrels, right? So where do you get that? Because we all have to find that spot to be grounded. I've seen some people that just do the opposite. And they add more noise to try to cut through the noise. And it's music. They turn the music on loud. And it drowns out everything around them. It never worked for me because I never could get my thoughts together because of the music. I love music, all kinds of music. But for me to get back in tune with myself and nature, I like it quiet. And it's never perfectly quiet, right? Because there's always something going on somewhere while you're out there. A lot of people talk about, deer hunting per se. And the ones that have figured it out is it's not about the hunting. It's not about harvesting. If you're still here and talking to somebody that's all about the harvest of, getting this monster bought, yada, 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 that's fine. And it's okay to be proud of your accomplishments. But that's not what hunting is all about. And I learned that at an early age from my grandfather. See, when he started me off, I was 9 or 10. And I would sit with him on deer watch, and I would walk with him when he did drives and stuff. And he was teaching me. It's a great place to teach because there's no other distractions, right? But as I got to be 12 or 13, instead of my grandfather sitting out front and me sitting behind listening and taking notes per se, I wasn't taking notes, but it was being, I didn't think it was being stored, but it was being stored. I found myself sitting out front with my grandfather sitting behind me, and now I had the gun. And he was really big on gun safety. He made sure that the prior years of me sitting behind him and carrying his gun when it was empty, but still carrying it, you always treat every firearm, every gun as if it's loaded. And that's what he taught me. And if he let me carry it out of the deer woods, I always made sure that it was pointed in a safe direction. I used to even open the lever action so I knew there was nothing in it. Because I wanted to be safe. I wanted my grandfather proud of me. And it's funny because I can remember my first year of sitting in front and him handing me the gun. He said, "Son, now it's your turn to carry on the tradition. Let's see how well you can do." And he would take little stones and this and that and just toss them to see how I would react to the noise, to make sure that I wasn't in an excited state of where I just turn and look real quick, pointing the gun and stuff. And to this day, I don't bring my gun up until I am 110% sure I know what it is. I know what's behind it. I taught the hunter safety course for years. My ex-wife and I, we had a lot of kids, a lot of wives come through our courses. And I can remember some of the guys that would send their wives so they could get extra tags. And once they got around my ex-wife and learned how much she enjoyed the hunting and camaraderie and all that, they started doing it. And they started out shooting their husbands. You know, backfired on the guys. Because women are better shots than men are anyways. But that's why I say you have to teach your kids young, you know. And I know that a lot of people that aren't around firearms on a regular basis are fearful of them. When I first started going out with my second wife, they lived downstate. They didn't own a gun. And the only people that owned a gun were either police officers or criminals, one or the other. So when they found out that I had firearms up here in the house, they were fearful. They didn't understand why I needed so many guns. And they weren't really keen on hunting, you know. I guess you watch too many Bambi stories and stuff. It's not that way, folks. It's not like Bambi in the woods. And when any of us harvest a deer, we thank the deer and we thank the good Lord for providing us with something that we will eat. Because I don't allow anybody to hunt anything unless they're going to eat it. I don't agree with waste. You're not just going to shoot something to shoot it. If you shoot it, you're going to eat it. Or you better have some place that somebody needs it or wants it. But it took me a while to convince my in-laws, you know, that I wasn't a criminal, even though I had guns. And when they started coming up and they started being around me, and they'd come up in the fall of the year for the Adirondack leaves and stuff. And my brother-in-laws would come in, and of course my son and their sons were all decked out in full camo with firearms and stuff. They got to see that. You know, you would have thought, looking at them, that we were going off to war. But we weren't. We were going off to do a deer hunt. And then they saw how we all got together, and when one person harvested a buck, of how everybody was thrilled for that person. And we were taking pictures and stuff, and my dad got involved in that. And I can remember, you know, I harvested one bear the one year. I've taken a couple of bears. One's a New York State record, but the other one was a little smaller. But both of them were males. And my taxidermist asked me, how do you want this bear done? So I asked my wife, she said, make it like it was like aggressive. And so I told Joey that. I said, she wants it aggressive. He says, great. He said, nobody likes them aggressive. So he made it so the claws were like that and the jaw was wide open. My father-in-law would sit underneath it and scare the kids. And I finally had to take it out of the house because it was driving my bear rug, which was the big one, and the one on the wall. I had to take out of the house and take up to camp because A, it was scaring the little kids, supposedly. That's what my wife told me. And then B, the bear rug that I had, every time my dog would go by it, that was Samantha. And she's pretty laid back, but every time she'd go by that bear rug, she'd start growling and barking at it because she'd see the head. So I ended up putting it up there. But getting back to getting back with nature, that's it. It never was about harvesting. It was about just camaraderie. It's like fishing. They call it fishing instead of catching because you're not guaranteed anything, and the same thing goes for hunting. You know, some people go years without harvesting an animal. I took one last year that was nice to eat, but I let a lot of them go, and I had for the prior 2 years because I was looking for an older, mature buck instead of shooting a younger buck. And my best times are in the fall, where it's quiet. Even if you go fishing, you know, it's quiet. A lot of times when I fish, I get up at the crack of dawn in the morning, and I get to see the sunrise because the fish are biting right in that morning where it's starting to change over when the bite usually happens. And for me, it's a lot more bearable, especially in the summertime. As the heat, the sun hasn't come out yet. But what do you do to clear the noise so that you've got a place to just kind of, have good thoughts, sort things out? How do you sort things out? I'd be curious to know.